Well, good afternoon or good evening or good morning, depending on where you're watching this show. This is a special version of my show, the Healthcare Leadership Show with Marion Spears Carr. I'm Marion Spears Carr, and today I had a moment, and we didn't have a guest this week, so I wanted just to pop on live and give you an opportunity to ask a question. I get constantly messages in my inbox on LinkedIn about the job market, some stuff going on about professional and personal development, which is the work that I do with my company, Inflow Executives. I've been in the executive search and leadership development space for a very, very long time and started a company called Inflow Executives last year and a half ago to kind of showcase all of that all those parts of the work that we've done over the years. And I get a lot of questions from individuals all the time around what can I do to improve my professional appearance in terms of the marketplace? How can I grow my network? How can I find new opportunities, et cetera? So I wanted to take this time again. Last minute notice for those of you who are watching. If you're watching live, please post in the comments any comments that you have or questions. Let us know that for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to answer whatever questions you have around executive search, the job market, or stuff going on in the leadership development space or professional development. So a couple of key things I wanted to talk about first in the marketplace. I just saw a post earlier today from a gentleman named Joel Lalgee, who is one of the biggest influencers now on LinkedIn from a recruiting perspective. He's a great guy and poster of a lot of different information. He's built a massive following online. He is a recruiter. He's moved into the executive recruiting space. And I believe he's working with human resources professionals. But he ran a poll today that I thought was very interesting. And the poll was to his network, and his network is very large. To his network, how many people are considering looking for a new job or potentially in the job market in the next year? And out of 400 responses, when I saw it earlier, over 70% had responded yes. That tells me a couple of different things about the marketplace. There's a lot of unrest in the marketplace in terms of the number of people looking. There is also a lot of, if there's 70%, it's very likely that there is a challenge to the number of opportunities that are out there. And I think those are a couple key things that I'd really like to kind of clue into around this conversation today. First is around what are some things, if you're looking to make a change in the next year or 6 months to a year, or even currently in a job search, what are some key things that you can do and need to do in order to achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve? And that's find another opportunity. Checking in with us, Thurston King is checking in, and he's made a really good comment here, and I'm going to bring it up. Thurston, thanks for being live in the audience. The job market is terrible, and I agree with that. Even though I've been in the search business for so long, and those of you who don't know me, I've been in specifically in healthcare delivery, and working with companies in that space. I've been doing it for a long time. The job market currently is very tight, and it is terrible to that comment there. I think one of the couple things about it, to kind of build on that though, is there are still opportunities in the marketplace that are being uncovered, but the situation is the traditional way that you've gone about finding jobs in the past, it's changing. Thurston's making a comment that he's been looking over a year. Samana's checking in from Calgary. Thank you, Samana, for being here. And Samana is one of my colleagues in the wellness space, and we partnered on a whole lot of different things in wellness and leadership across a lot of different platforms. And so, Samana, glad to have you here. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But to Thurston's point, There are a couple key things here. The traditional way of finding a job, which is looking into the job market, looking for job postings or looking for job openings and applying through the traditional methods, is not working. I'll tell you, there's I just kind of, in my opinion, there's three reasons why. One, a lot of companies have reduced the number of opportunities that they're putting out there because of the concern over the economy and concern over some decisions that are being made in the marketplace right now. Hiring is down dramatically compared to what the hiring numbers were just a few years ago. I think there's a trend that's slowly moving in the other direction, but that's going to take some time. We're going to probably be going, based on my experience and watching this play out over and over again. We're going to be into first quarter, second quarter of 2026 before we start to see any significant improvement in terms of the number of opportunities in the marketplace. One other piece that's happening in the place is in the marketplace is the use of AI engines to manage the applicant tracking systems. Even though AI has its place, in my opinion, there's some technology advances that can be gained through AI. The challenge with AI right now, from my personal perspective, and talking to candidates in the marketplace and looking at the processes, is that it hasn't learned to discern level of talent and transferable skill sets. It's basically very much driven by kind of square peg, square hole. If you don't have X number of years of experience, a certain level of education, and been in certain levels of companies or types of companies very specific to the role that's open, it's kicking people out. So there's no consideration within the AI platforms. And if you're an AI specialist in AI candidate tracking and placement, I'd love for you to come on the show and talk about differences that you see are happening, or correct me if I'm wrong. But what we're finding is when I talk to candidates that I coach who are looking for jobs that they've applied, they're getting rejected at a very high rate. They're not even getting first round of interviews. I think that's the second piece. The third piece is that, and this is a knock on talent acquisition internal to companies, but because of the need for staff reductions in a lot of talent acquisition departments, the people that are currently still in talent acquisition departments, even though job numbers are down, the number of requisitions they're still having to deal with is very, very high. So they become very project or very specific specific to the particular position that's available. And if you don't fit within 80 to 95% of what the job description says they're looking for, they're not going to move you through the process. So I think those are the kind of some of the key things around that. Dorian Williams is checking in, my buddy and colleague, who I've known for a long time. I'm going to bring his comment up. And by the way, thank y'all for being here for this pop-up. This was not really planned, and I wanted to get on the air. He agreed that AI definitely has its place, but not for recruitment at this time. I agree with you, Dorian. I just don't think it's learned advanced enough to dig down and look for transferable skill sets, or see where there are skill sets and capabilities that translate into the new role and can make a difference. Samana also sharing with us, and this is a really key piece, only 33% of employees are engaged at work in North America, according to Gallup, at this moment. This is a shocking and big problem for leaders. So let's talk about that in the context of the job market. If there are less jobs in the marketplace available, these 33% of people, or the 66% that are dissatisfied, are stuck where they are, or they're going to be in the unemployment piece. I want to come back to that, but I think that's really another component of the job market that we really need to think about is, if you're an employer, right now, if the job market rebounds, and it will, and I'll tell you, I know everybody doesn't think it will, but I've been in this business a very long time. When I started in this business in 1991, it was a major recession. There were no jobs being hired. There was a lot of issues going on. In 99, when I started Exec, my retained executive search firm, that was the Y2K era. And right after that, in 2001, was 9/11, which shut down the market dramatically. It rebounded. 2008, let's talk about 2008. 2008, the financial disaster that took place all over North America. Hiring went down. Companies were laying off dramatic rates, etc. We get into the 2010, 2011, 2012, there was a rebound. But then around 2014, 2013, 2014, the advance of applicant tracking systems really took over. And there was this period where, even though there were a lot of jobs, a lot of people weren't getting jobs again because they weren't getting the interviews that they needed. We continue forward. The economy started to wane again. And then what happened? The pandemic. And so far, we've rebounded from all of those things, but we're in that situation now. So we've talked about the negative space. We've talked about some of the negative pieces. And Simone, I'll get to your question in just a minute. But so what am I suggesting that we need to do? If you're in the job market right now, your focus needs to be, in my opinion, building your network. And I mean, not just connecting with people on LinkedIn or connecting and just trying to expand the number of people you're connected with, but being very specific and very intentional about who you're connecting with. Building that list out of people and companies that you need to connect with are critically important, but it needs to align with something else, which is the most critical component. If you're listening to the show, this is the one thing that I want you to take away from it. You need to be able to create for you a value proposition that explains the problem that you solve better than most. In other words, it's not just that you've had these 15 years or 5 years or 30 years or whatever it is, years of experience. And by the way, the job challenges are across age groups. There's a lot of talk right now about age discrimination or lack of the older generation not finding opportunities, but in fact, the opportunity challenges go across generations. Yes, there are some challenges related to people that are 50 and over, but there are some key issues there. You need to be focused on deciding what it is that you bring to the table, the problem that you solve better than most, the problem that you're able to solve as a leader, as an individual, et cetera. And then you need to focus on finding the companies that has that problem. That's where the piece is going to go into place. It's going to take place. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Simone has asked a quick question. What qualities or mindsets are you seeing most in demand right now for leaders navigating employee disengagement? Great point, Simone. The thing that I'm seeing in regards to your question is leaders and people that have the skills to bring impactful programs or leadership in the context of developing people past the just simple, we're going to make you better, we're going to have pizza parties, we're going to just be kind and those kind of things. If we are going to be true professionals in the world of building engagement, we have to bring specific training programs that makes the teams better, makes them more productive, brings better satisfaction, aligns their skills with the work that they really want to do, and be far more discerning than just simply creating a wellness program that nobody takes advantage of. I hope that answered your question, Samana. I appreciate what you're saying there. Dorian, I'd love for you to make a comment about what you're seeing in the marketplace, but let's go back to this idea of around what is the problem you solve better than most? I launched, despite the fact that the job market is the way it is, I launched my new company last year called Inflow Executives. Inflow Executives is, and this is not a sales pitch, I'm just explaining to you the idea around what problem you solve better than most. Inflow Executives is like the culmination of the kind of the three problems that I've been able to solve the most in the marketplace throughout my career. One, finding the best talent who had the biggest impact on the organizations that I place them in. Inflow Executives is specifically, we only take on searches that have a real critical need for impact. It's not just to fill jobs. We're very much focused on that. And that was a problem that we solved. Is how do we compete with the big executive search firms? Is we solve a problem in community and regional hospitals a lot of times where there's a real critical need to understand that community at a micro level. So that's the first thing. So the second piece of Inflow Executives is developing leaders with very skilled leadership qualities around gratitude, around engagement, around the behavioral science of working with people. So that was the second piece that we built Inflow Executives around. The third piece is there are all these companies out there that need access to services, but because there's so many service companies in the market, they don't have an understanding or awareness of how to vet those services or how to connect those services to their needs. In other words, they put an RFP out, or they go out in the marketplace and they get a variety of different things coming to them. And it is hard to discern who to work with. Inflow Executives created a channel partner program that went out and met with companies that work in the same markets that we did, vetted them for the quality of work and the quality of people that work in those organizations. And we partner with them to introduce them to companies in the marketplace. So how does that relate to what we're talking about? What I did when I started Inflow Executives, I decided what were the three problems I solved better than most. And those were the three problems. And that became my business prop. That became the structure of my organization. And we have thrived despite the fact that job hiring's down, despite the fact that there are challenges going on in the marketplace. Why is that important? Apply that to your job search. If you'll think about what is the problem you solve the most or the best, and where does that fit within your career path? Where does that fit within who you are and what you want to bring to the table? If you will focus on trying to find the companies that have that problem and then build your network with the decision makers within those organizations, you're going to have a higher probability of getting an opportunity. It's not about looking for a job anymore. If you want to go out and just go to LinkedIn jobs and apply all day long, be my guest. Even, do you want to connect with all the recruiting firms? I'm not saying I'm in the recruiting business. I always want to welcome people to connect with me so I know about you as a candidate. That's helpful too. But your number one job, if you're in the job market right now, your number one job is to retool how you go about the work that you're doing to find a job. Your job now, your 40 hour a week job needs to be focused on finding a job. And again, it's not about writing a great resume, even though it's really important. There's a lot of people that can help you write a great resume. And by the way, if you want to talk about resumes, send me an email and I can connect you with the best resume people in the country that can help you. The most important thing about a resume, it needs to tell me the value you bring to the table. What you need to be doing, in my personal opinion, is focusing on refining your value prop, understanding what you bring to the table, and then move forward in finding the companies that have that problem and start connecting with the people in that organization that would have the influence over that. That is really the critical situation. We have about 6 more minutes or 7 more minutes. If anybody's watching live, again, this was a pop-up. I'm Marion Spears-Carr, and for those of you who may have just fallen in here by mistake or didn't know what was going on, I'm an executive search and leadership development professional who's been in the industry for a very, very long time. And this is, how I look at the industry. I constantly reinvent myself in order to match and meet the needs of the marketplace. As candidates in the marketplace, you have to do the very same thing. You have to make yourself valuable in the context of that side of it. Dorian is dropped a big paragraph here, but I want to check it out. Seeing a lot of talented candidates not getting a callback, as you reference, there's a ton of that. I do believe that the authentic or genuine relationships will land you the next job. Great piece of advice you shared, identifying the core of what I'm good at. The disengagement of the workforce is noticeable, and more initiatives are being put in place for engagement. And then he goes on to talk about, I think the issues they come across at times is the flavor of the month. Dorian, that point that you just made around leadership being seen oftentimes as the flavor of the month is critically important. When we started really working on our authentic gratitude communication framework training, the whole goal of that training program was to create it in a way that it's sustainable and is evergreen. And it can't be the flavor of the month in order for it to stick. Same thing as you're talking about. If we want to, and by the way, leaders, if you're paying attention to what Dorian said, pay clear attention to this. It can't be the flavor of the month. It has to be reinforced over time. As a matter of fact, you can't go out and find 5 or 6 of these and it's not throwing mud at the wall and trying to make them stick. You have to pick a program or programs that is foundational and connected to your core values as an organization, what you were trying to achieve, and then build on that over time. And by the way, back to the job search people, that's the exact same strategy that you need to have. It is a long game. To quote Dory Clark, who's one of my influences and part of the runs a program called the Recognized Expert Program that I joined a few years ago. Dory wrote a book called The Long Game, and it's about personal branding and building your network and building who you're influenced by and who you're connected to. But what's interesting about the long game strategy, and shout out to Dory, is this is the same thing with job search. I know you need to go to work. I know things are challenging. Focus on spending time in the marketplace, seeing what problems are out there. And in healthcare, the best way to do that is to follow Becker's Hospital Review, follow what Scott Becker's doing, follow his posts, follow other industry magazines and et cetera, and watch what people are posting. And start thinking about what is the problem you solve better than most, and what is the problem you like to solve the most. And then begin focusing on finding the companies that have that problem and then building your network. If you'd like to learn more about that approach, we do offer a coaching program specifically for that. It's very low cost. It's part of the work that we do to support our network. Drop me a DM if you have a chance. We have time for one more question. Dorian, thanks for the great discussion. Samana, thanks for a great discussion. If anyone else has any questions specific about the job market, leadership development, et cetera, I shared a lot of information in a pop-up. And by the way, this is going to be recorded. It's going to be on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, which is brand new. There's only like 8 followers over there, but we're using that as a repository and recording. Samana is really keen on this. What is the problem you solve better than most? That's the key takeaway. And I know that I've said that like 14 times, but it is. And you don't have to solve it better than everybody. You just have to solve it better than most. If, for example, I'm a healthcare leader that has a very strong skill set around building sustainable teams that work very cost effectively and improve the quality of the care of the patients that we're serving, and I'm really good at that, I need to know which organizations. I need to go find those organizations that are struggling with their quality numbers. And it's super simple to find it. If you want to know more about how to find that, and then reach out to that CEO and say, hey, when I was X organization, the problem we had to solve was this, and talk about it briefly. And here's what I was able to do with my team to solve that problem. I would love to have a conversation with you about your organization and how I could support what you're doing to improve your quality. Yes, it's a numbers game. You're going to have to talk to a lot of people, and you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of silence. All you need is one. So focus on that. And if you want to know more, I'm Marion Spears Carr. This is the Healthcare Leadership Show. We'll be back soon with more episodes of guests of companies that are solving problems better than their competitors and making a difference. Individuals that are making leaders and companies that are making a big difference. I'm Marion Spears Carr. We're going to sign out now. And if you have any questions, send me a message. Thanks for joining us for this pop-up. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon.